I'm Wendy Kay of the Empaths, Ascension, and Psychic Stuff community, and I'm so glad you've chosen or have been guided to listen to one of our community shows. By continuing to listen, you agree to the terms found at wendyswisdom.ca/terms. Now this week I decided to go into the archives and pull a show that I had done, way back when I first started doing these podcasts. Now this show is on earthing and the experiment that I did, and it talks a little bit about what earthing is and what it can do for you, and I go through the experiment that I did to see if earthing or connecting to the earth really did make a difference. Enjoy the show. So I'm out on my walk today and I decided to do a little experiment. I'm guessing that there are a lot of you out there who have heard about grounding, but how about earthing? I'm not talking about the grounding that you do when you're meditating. I'm talking about the grounding that you do when you're going out into nature and actually connecting with the earth. It's apparently also known as earthing, and I'm sure that there are probably more names for it, but I like the term earthing, so I'm going to use it for this episode. Supposedly, this is something that's meant to balance your body so that it becomes healthier. And the reported benefits are that it decreases inflammation in the body. It helps you to achieve a deeper state of sleep. It enhances your dreams. It calms you, helps to clear the mind, and I'm sure many other things, but those are the results people claim to have experienced. Now, I did speak to one person who has used the earthing products, but she didn't find that it did much for her. Apparently, the healthier you are, the less likely you are to feel changes. Now, if that's true, I should be able to feel a heck of a lot. The question is, will I? Well, I intend to find out. Oh, I did order some earthing products to try, but in the meantime, I'm going to experiment with doing it the natural way. Right now, I'm sitting on a bench in the middle of nature, and I'm about 20 steps from the lake. I am surrounded by trees, and there are birds chirping, and it's just really a spectacular day. This is one of my usual spots where I hang out, and I've taken off my shoes, so I'm in my bare feet. Oh, I guess I should mention that I'm sitting on a wooden bench, which is embedded in concrete, and of course neither of those would be a good conductor of the energies, but I've got my feet on the actual ground, not on the concrete. I can feel all of the little pebbles and the sand under my feet, and there's sticks, and I'm sure there's some other things that are going to be crawling around down there. The ground is actually a bit cold as well. So this is my little experiment, and I'm going to try and see if I notice a difference as to how it makes me feel. And I got to admit, I really love doing energy experiments. They're one of my favorite things to try. Oh, you know what? I have to say that almost immediately, as I'm paying attention to what I'm feeling, I am feeling something. I feel tingles or some kind of energy flowing up the lower part of my leg and the calf area and, around the feet. Oh, that's really interesting. Well, so perhaps something is actually happening. I'm thinking that this action, it's similar to or the same as hugging a tree. They tell you that if you hug a tree, you can feel so much calmer or so much better. And I'm betting it's probably because the tree is rooted in the earth. So by hugging the tree, you're making that same connection to the earth as well. Now, I don't know that I want to hug a tree for a long time. I imagine that there's all kinds of bugs or spiders crawling around on it that would get into my hair or start crawling on me. So I think I'll stick to being barefoot on the ground. This connection is supposed to help with your emotions. It's supposed to help with stress, and it's supposed to help with healing your physical body as well with things like inflammation. I've read a lot of articles that say when you do this, the inflammation in your body decreases. If you do suffer from a lot of inflammation, it's well worth taking a few minutes of your time to try it out to see if you feel any different. Now, this is information that I read on the web, and we all know that everything you read on the web is correct, right? Yeah, right. Always experiment or trust your intuition to make sure that whatever is being shared, whatever information you're reading or listening to, make sure that it fits in with your belief system. Make sure that it feels true to you. Test it out and experiment. Don't just take someone else's word for it. Make sure it's right for you. If you're spiritually developing, and by that I mean developing your psychic abilities or learning to connect and communicate with spirit, you might want to try meditating at the same time. If you do, you might end up getting some information in terms of maybe seeing some images or visions, or maybe you'll hear something, maybe you'll feel something other than what's happening in your feet or your legs. So I'm going to try a little meditation right now. I'm just going to take a few minutes and close my eyes and say a little prayer to connect to the divine. And I'm going to ask for a little bit of insight into what I'm doing. Now, as I'm kind of tuning in, I have to say that at this point, I can feel the energy going through my entire body. I can feel it in my hands and my fingers. And I do have arthritis in my hands, so I'm wondering if the energy is working on the inflammation in my fingers. It would make sense. Anyway, okay, so I'm sitting here and someone has started to speak to me, so I'm going to repeat whatever I'm hearing, so you're hearing it as well. My dear, what you are doing is extremely beneficial to your body. Doing this for only 10 minutes each day would drastically reduce your stress levels. We encourage you to come out and dive into the pure energy that the earth provides. This is not about connecting to spirit, for your energy is being pulled downwards and being balanced. Okay, so this is about a physical balancing of the body. That's all I'm hearing at the moment. Well, at least there's a little bit of information that came through. I mean, it's definitely pleasurable just sitting here listening to nature, but that's no different than normal. I do know that when I started my walk today, I was very stressed just because there were some new ideas that came to me this morning that kind of freaked me out a bit. So doing this earthing might have come at a very good time. I'm curious to see if it can help with my state of mind and help to put me in a more relaxed state. Now, it's important apparently, because someone's talking to me again, and they're saying that you should choose an area that really feels alive and vibrant. They're saying that if the area feels dead to you, it's not a great area to do this in. That's what they're saying. Well, I guess that makes sense. And that would be really important if you're focused on developing your abilities, or if you consider yourself an empath or are very sensitive to energies. I mean, the more sensitive that you are to the energies, the more important it would be for you to find an area that's very pure in terms of energy. You know, this is a super easy experiment for you to try yourself. And if you haven't done it before, give it a try. Find yourself a nice spot out in nature. You know, I suppose you could certainly go out into your backyard and do the same thing. Just take off your shoes and socks and make contact with the grass, the sand, or the ground. And it would probably be very interesting to do this in different areas so that you could compare what you feel to see if one location gives you better results than another. So if you do this next to water, do you get better results than doing it in the middle of a forest? If you're doing it on a beach, is that better than on the grass? So play around and see what kind of feelings you get. I guess I should also mention that I think you would need to be careful where you do this because you do want it to be in an area that is clean. And I'm not talking about energy clean. I'm talking about clean. While I would just love to walk barefoot on this path, there are way too many people that allow their dogs to poop and then they just leave it. The thought of walking on dog feces or even the remnants of it leaves me squeamish. So do think about any potential health hazards where you're going to be doing this. Also, what comes to mind, a few weeks ago I read an article in the newspaper about these 3 ladies that had gone on vacation and they had come back with a tropical worm disease from walking on a beach where the same type of thing happened, that dogs, I guess, and other animals released themselves, and it's not a very clean place. So any worms or whatever that happened to be there, they were walking in bare feet, and it actually went into their body that way. They did become very ill. Be careful about where you're going barefoot. Now, you could wear earthing shoes, something like moccasins, that are designed to allow for the same energy connection, and it also gives you some protection. That's my bit of wisdom for today. Make sure to pick a spot that you know is pretty clear or clean, where you can sit down on the ground or you could put your hands and feet on it, and where you can get some good skin contact so that this can work for you. Do make sure that there aren't a lot of toxins where you're doing this. I'm putting my shoes back on and I'm going to start to walk again. I've been doing this for a few minutes now. The first thing I'm noticing is that as I'm walking, my mind isn't racing anymore. And I don't feel as scattered as I did before I started doing this. I'm not having all of those thoughts that come with stress crowding my mind, and I'm actually pretty tired. So I'm guessing that the stress really has been released quite a bit. I'm not so keyed up. I'm even yawning, which is normally a good sign because that's what usually happens when you're clearing a blockage. So this definitely did something positive for me. Those few minutes of connecting to the earth or grounding to the earth really did seem to do something positive for my body and my mind. I have to say that I'm pretty glad that that's what happened because, as I mentioned earlier, I did invest in a few earthing products. I'm really anxious now to see what kind of results I'm going to get using the products. They're supposed to help with the computer and the electromagnetic fields that affect us. I'm really looking forward to using them. When I do get those in, I'll give them a try and I'll let you know how it worked out. In the meantime, if you haven't tried earthing before, you might want to give it a try. It's certainly an easy experiment that doesn't take a lot of time, effort, and it certainly doesn't take any supplies that you would have to go out and purchase. So see what it does for you. That's the end of today's show. And I do want to mention that to this day, I still use all of the earthing products that I purchased, and I have found them to be very beneficial for me. That's not to say that it'll be beneficial for you. However, you'd have to experiment to find out if that's something that does indeed work for you. If you enjoyed today's show, don't forget to follow us and to share the show so that others can learn a bit about earthing as well. If you're interested in supporting the show and becoming a patron, you can go to patreon.com/Wendy Kay, patreon.com/WendyKay, and join the Empaths, Ascension, and Psychic Stuff community, where I'm posting different things about the energy at this time and psychic development and things that can help you on your path. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Wendy Kay, and remember to live and breathe in divine love energy.